Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy, my sister.
Welcome to this edition of Healthier, Older, and Happier. If you like listening to stories, this is the edition for you. In previous episodes, we have elaborated on various factors that determine health span and lifespan. The stories that you will hear today are true stories, and hopefully they will encourage you to think about other determinants of living and well-being. Ditubocurarine is the name of a medicine that I can almost guarantee that not many people are familiar with. It's actually used as an anesthetic agent, and these days its use has been replaced by safer alternatives because of the problems that were associated with its use. Ditubocurarine is a skeletal muscle relaxant. The plant extract from which this medicine is derived is called arrow poison. And the reason it is called arrow poison is that hunting Indians are known to poison their arrows while hunting so that when they hit their targets, the animals are paralyzed. Story number 1 is the story of a 10-year-old girl who suffered a medication error. She was supposed to have been given an injection, but somehow she got an injection of ditubocurarine instead. What followed was muscle paralysis, including the paralysis of her respiratory muscles. Just hang on, I will give you more details as we continue. Story number 2 is published or was published in the International Journal of Clinical Practice by Dr. Ehigegba and Selo Ojeme in 1999. It is the story of a young pregnant woman who had uterine fibroids in pregnancy. In addition to the uterine fibroids within her womb, she also had this fibroid outside the womb that had a long stalk. So it was called a pedunculated fibroid. And that fibroid got stuck in her navel and she had an acute abdominal emergency that required surgery. Her doctors had to take some decisions, knowing that operating on her as they would have to would likely jeopardize that pregnancy. But they went ahead and operated. The good thing is that it was a success story. Both mother and baby were saved. You will hear more about that as we proceed. Story number 3 is that of a doctor who, after a night call, arrived home to freshen up for the day. It turned out that she was attacked by her dog, a German Shepherd, an Alsatian dog. In the battle that ensued, the dog was determined to kill. And this woman, this doctor, who was 27 weeks pregnant at the time, had to engage in a battle for her life. She went on and succeeded in overcoming that attack and had to be treated, including getting anti-rabies vaccine in pregnancy. She survived along with the baby. Story number 4 is that of a woman who stood on the bridge over River Chicago and looking across at the river, wanted to jump in. Not because she wanted to swim, she couldn't swim, because she wanted to end it all. Before I give you more details, I will define 3 terms that we have used, which you may not be so familiar with. The first is near death, near miss, and medical error. Near death is an experience in which a person comes close to dying in a situation that is life-threatening. It involves the experience of having your body separated from your spirit and a transition into another realm. A near miss, as you may have seen in the caption of this episode, is a narrow escape from an accident or any other form of danger. The European Medicines Agency defines a medication error as a failure in the drug treatment process that is unintended and has the potential to cause harm or actually causes harm. Back to the stories. That 10-year-old girl was me. In that near-death experience, the first indication I had that something was wrong after being given that injection was that I felt the floor coming upwards towards my face. I felt my strength ebb away. I totally lost sense of my being, and then I collapsed. I knew that I was being dragged into the back seat of a car. I felt someone lie over me, putting their face on mine and pushing air into my nose and mouth. I could hear someone screaming, "Oxygen, oxygen." The sounds grew dimmer and dimmer, fainter and fainter. And that's the last I could remember on this side. On the other side, I saw a sea of heads moving towards me, people. I really couldn't recognize anyone, but even as I speak, I can still see that picture. They seemed to have been dancing and they were advancing towards me. The whole experience lasted about 18 hours. By the time I opened my eyes, it was 3 p.m. and I was at the children emergency room. I'm also that pregnant woman who had abdominal surgery at 28 weeks of pregnancy. I remember hearing the obstetrician and the general surgeon talking to one another as they prepared to open me up for surgery that day. I recall hearing them say, "She can have another baby if this one goes." I also recall hearing my mom praying out loud and saying, "Lord, I claim the life of my daughter and my grandchild." Post-surgery, the uterine contractions started. I was having 3 contractions, 3, 4, 5 contractions every minute. Labor was established. But by the grace of God, that pregnancy was carried to term and I had a normal delivery of a normal child who is an adult today. I am also that doctor who was attacked by the dog. As I stepped out of the car that day and I heard the dog growl, I called his name. He snarled at me and he approached me menacingly. It was like a joke, but before I knew what, I was back flat on the floor on my back and the dog was on top of me. He was angling for my neck, and I knew that if he bit my neck, that would be the end. I put my hands around his throat. Both my big hands couldn't get around his throat. Soon I could smell my own blood. He had beaten me in multiple places. I screamed, calling for help. I could see the sky above. It looked so far away. And I remembered David. And I called upon God that saved David from the bear and from the lion. He saved me that day. I had cuts, I had bites. I was soaked in blood. I had fractured a bone on my foot. But God saved me, and He saved that baby too. Yes, I'm also that woman who stood on the bridge in Chicago. I looked at that water. The thought came to my mind, jumping, knowing that I couldn't swim. That would have been the end. As I considered jumping in, I also heard a voice saying to me, "You are not of them that jump into the river." I pulled back. I don't know whether it was me who pulled back or whether it was an angel that pulled me back, but I pulled back. I didn't jump in, and I'm here today to tell the story. It was my birthday 2 days ago, and as I stood in my room, appreciating God for all that He had done, these stories and many others, stories of near-death experiences, near misses, came to my mind. And as I prayed, I promised God that I was going to share these stories. I am hoping that somebody will be blessed by listening to these stories, seeing how far God has brought me from that 10-year-old girl who survived an intramuscular injection with D-tubercularine, arrow poison, to that woman who almost jumped into the river, to the person who is looking and smiling at you today. I could tell many more stories, but I just want to focus on what my key message is. In our previous episodes, we have focused on genetic factors, biological factors, behavioral, social, and societal factors that influence health span as well as lifespan. These have been widely studied, and we have shared evidence, robust evidence, about the factors that influence how well we live. However, I wouldn't be here today if life was all about genes and lifestyle choices and behaviors. I wouldn't be here. There is another dimension to living and well-being. And I would like to refer you to one of the biggest successes in research in recent times, which is the Human Genome Project. Dr. Francis Collins is the one who led that project. He started out as an atheist, but he turned out to become not just a believer in God, but a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. According to Dr. Francis Collins, there is no conflict between scientific rigor and faith in God. You know, in previous episodes, I would invite you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to subscribe today, not only to my YouTube channel, but I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the God who created you and to His Son, Jesus Christ, who died for you. If you have already subscribed, I sincerely congratulate you. It's not a walk in the park, but it's a walk through life, knowing that the one who calls the shots is holding your hand and that He sits over everything. I am a living testimony of how God can transform adverse life circumstances into testimonies. As I invite you to subscribe, I also invite you to get in touch with me if you have any concerns arising from the stories I have shared. Please feel very free to share your own experiences in the comment section when you watch this video. And if you're listening through the radio, I invite you to go online and watch this episode on YouTube. You can also get additional resources by visiting our website, which is aituaje.com, aituaje.com. You could also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music. Thanks for the feedback on previous episodes, and I am always happy to hear how much of a help you are getting from these episodes. I look forward to our next encounter.
Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy.